Alright, today we're working on a HS621. It's a Honda snowblower single stage. And the goal is to see why it doesn't run. I imagine it's carburetor related, because I smelled the oil and it smelled like gas, so the float has probably stuck open and drained all the fuel into the oil. So I'll have to change the oil before I start it. But first I'm going to pull the carburetor off and see what we got in there. To get this cover off, you need a 10mm. There it looks like there's, say, 6. Go ahead and use my electric impact to pull these off. Looks like there's possibly a Phillips one on this side behind the auger drive cable. So we have to use a Phillips screwdriver to get that out. Now, you'll want to keep track of where all these go and keep them in a safe place. What I do is I get one of these little magnetic trays, put all my bolts and screws in there. And it looks like there's 2 more up front too, so I'll have to pull those out. And those look to be 10mm as well. Okay, so I was having a little trouble using the impact on this front bolt. So I'm going to use a socket. If I can find the ratchet. That is because it is. There we go. That's not it. Where is my 10mm? Let's try using wrench. My 10mm not right here. The reason why I wasn't able to get it with the impact is because it wouldn't fit in there. Now, these bolts aren't very long, so it doesn't take much to get them out. There's that one. Looks to be like we might have to pull this top redirector for the snow. Looks like those are 10mm as well. Go ahead and pull that off so we can get a little more room. Just take the whole clip and all, set that down in there too. Don't lose anything. And they're just held in with a little L-shaped bracket. Set those in there. Should pop off. Set that off to the side so it can be cleaned before I put it back on anyways. Looks like these might be 8mm. Nope. 9 maybe. Oh, those are 10s as well. Huh. That's cool. Everything's 10mm on this. I'm not complaining. It saves me from searching for tools all day. Got those all pulled out. Set that over here with this. There's nothing else with that, so you don't have to worry about tossing it off to the side. Got a little rubber flap underneath the fuel cap. Pop that out of the way. There we are, a little bit better access to our carburetor area. Still might need to pull this top cover off too. Get in there a little bit better. Yeah. I'm gonna have to pull that off. Go on this other side here. And this one's just held on by 10mm bolts as well. Up underneath the handle. There's only 4 of those. Go ahead and take the rest of the way out by hand. So it's going to get dropped. After you pull these out, probably have to disconnect the choke lever, a couple other things. I'm trying to keep this so it doesn't fall back. Starting to run out of space in here. I'm going to have to find a new spot for this bench grinder back here. It's not in the best location. Looks like everything will come off at once. Looks good. Move the camera a little bit so you can see what's going on there. Pull the top cover off of this so I can get in there better. Imagine the fuel line's going to hold us up a little bit. Everything looks to be in pretty good shape otherwise. Hold on a minute, I'm going to be right back. I'm going to move this bench grinder out of my way. Alright, reposition the camera a little bit. Grab a pair of needle nose pliers to get this fuel line off of here. And then we'll be able to move back down towards the carburetor. I have not worked on this exact model of snowblower, but by the looks of it, it is just like any other Honda 4-stroke engine. It's similar to the Predators and whatnot. So it shouldn't be too crazy different. It all looks the same to me. But we'll find out when we get there. This fuel line stiff. Trying to get this hose clamp out of the way. Get it rotated where it can grab hold of it a little better. Maybe. I like the quality of Honda products, but some of the crap they use to put their stuff together is irritating. I'm just replacing this hose clamp. Let's get on my nerves. Go ahead and just get rid of that and get a new one before we put everything back together. This fuel tank was already empty because it had drained into the crankcase. Once we get that out of the way, we can disconnect our choke and kill wires. This kill wire looks like it should just pop off, maybe. Let's see. Choke cable comes off just like any other choke cable on like a golf cart or something along those lines. It's just got a little plastic nut on the bottom. This should come off up here. It should. Can't say it will. No. Let's see. That won't fit through there, so just gonna go ahead and disconnect the choke cable from the carburetor. Need a Phillips screwdriver, and I'll have to see what size that nut is, but it looks a little smaller than 10 millimeter. Just loosen that up a little bit. Then grab another socket. And it is indeed an 8 millimeter. I'm going to go ahead and throw that on here. You don't have to take it all the way out. I'm not going to be able to get that off with that. I'm going to have to use a ratchet. Just need to loosen it enough to where you can get the cable out of the little bracket that holds it there. It's out. Slide the cable out. Drop the plastic nut like I did. Set the cable off to the side. Go ahead and grab this plastic nut so I don't lose it. Forget about it. Just thread it back onto the choke cable so it's not floating around. Now I gotta figure out the kill wire. It should come off fairly easily. Honestly, it popped out of its little clip right here, so I can get out of pulling that all the way off. Have to pull this fuel petcock off of here. Set it out of the way. Looks like it's another 10 millimeter, two 10 millimeters. Holding that on. Go ahead and pop it off. There's one on this side, and then there's one in here between the fuel lines that run from the Petcock. It's going to be a pain in the ass to get to. These fuel lines in the way. Let's see if I can't try and pull those off. Might be able to get in there. It's not looking real promising. Set this nut in magnetic tray. Grab my pair of pliers. Pull these 4 lines off the rest of the way, just so they're out of my way. Might actually have to replace this fuel line. It's kind of stiff, which is no big deal, but in my opinion, these hose clamps are kind of pointless. They're so weak they don't really hold much pressure on anything. Fuel line a little wiggle. See if we can pop off there. There we go. Now we should be able to get to our other nut on the front of this carburetor. But maybe not with an impact. No, there it is. Now that's out of the way. Pull this off. There's nothing else on there other than the 2 nuts. And this should slide. Should slide off here. Another fuel line in the way. There's another 10mm bolt on top. Now this isn't a customer's equipment or personal equipment. It's something I had picked up for really cheap and figured give it a shot getting it going. Figured it can't be too crazy. There's an E-clip on the bottom of this choke cable mount. I'm going to try and get that off here before we go too far. It's not going to allow me to slide that out without pulling it. Let's hope it doesn't break, because I don't have any E-clips that size that I can think of. Go ahead and grab a flathead screwdriver. Make quick of this process. Oh, it came off. Sounded like it landed on the table somewhere. Let's hope. I do not have an E-clip this size. I don't see where it went, but it'll be fine for now. Cross that road when I get there. You want to put it back together. Now when you pull apart these Honda carburetors, you need to be cautious of how everything comes apart, because there is multiple different spacers and air dams and other items along those lines, and they go in a very specific order. You do not want to have to try and figure that out when it comes to putting it back together if you don't remember. Me, myself, I'm fairly familiar with Honda stuff, so I should be able to keep track of it. No problem. That goes like that. Surprisingly, everything moves freely on this carburetor, so looks like some kind of greasy stuff on here. I don't know if somebody maybe greased it before. Let's go ahead and pull that off. Looks like this air dam's stuck to it, so I'm going to leave it on there. I don't want to pull it apart and not have the gaskets to replace it at the moment. Oh, I got the carburetor off. I'm going to go ahead and get it pulled apart so I can clean it after I figure out how the spring goes back on here. Looks to be like it goes like that. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and pull this carburetor apart. This is the back side mating surface for the intake. The base of this, 10mm I imagine, like every other Honda carburetor. I have to grab a 10mm socket. Looks like this thing was stored outside most of its life, so that's kind of inconvenient. Hopefully everything else is good. Otherwise, I'll be ordering a new carburetor for it. There we go. Don't mind the sound. My garage doesn't have a door on it as of now, so it's just a tarp. And the wind here today is awful. Oh yeah, she is nasty. Very nasty. I'm gonna have to get a container and set this in there so I can clean it. I'll be back in a short moment. Okay, so now I got a container, I got the carburetor on it. I'm going to grab some carb cleaner or brake cleaner or something to eat away at the corrosion. I just buy whatever's cheapest. I don't really care what brand it is. It all does the same thing to me. I'm going to go ahead and pull this out, put the straw in it, get everything started to clean up a little bit. It's really nasty inside here. I have no idea how long this thing is sat. Luckily, it seems that the needle isn't seized, so that's a plus. Go ahead and pull this out. Go ahead and get a scrub brush for this. If you're wondering why I'm not using an ultrasonic cleaner, it's because I don't have an ultrasonic cleaner as of now. And being as it is, kind of old school about stuff, so I like to do everything by hand just to be sure. I know it sounds kind of ignorant, but I just like to do it my way. And I know it's clean this way. See if I can't get this jet out of here. Don't like how tight it is. Screwdriver in there. I'm gonna go grab another screwdriver first before I try and take that out. I don't like how it feels. Maybe, if I can find my other screwdriver. Well, I might not have to take it out yet. I'll try and see if I can't clean it without taking it out. Get a light shine down in there. Oh yeah, it's gonna take a little bit to get it out of there anyways. It's really, really dirty. Looks like we're getting fuel flow through it though, so that's not always. Ooh, that's tasty. With as dirty as this is, I would personally buy a new carburetor, but for the price of the machine and me not knowing a whole lot about it, I'm going to go ahead and try and clean this before I spend a whole lot of money on it. I don't want to get myself invested too deep and be a waste of time. It feels as if it has compression, and it looks like it should run fairly easy, but looks can be deceiving. As bad as this is, I'd like to let it soak, but I really don't want to waste a bunch of time. I'd like to get this thing done. so I can get it out of my way. See if that freed up that needle or jet any. No, it did not. I'm trying to get a wire up in here. Maybe bust whatever's in there free. Alright, I'm gonna find another screwdriver before I go too crazy for it. Oh, maybe this one. It's too big. I'm gonna grab another screwdriver first. Alright, so I got another screwdriver that I was looking for. This one fits much better. Feels like I got it free that time. Oh yeah. The brake parts cleaner by SuperTech is actually really good stuff. I like it. It's the first time using it. Typically I get the CRC brand or one of the larger cans that they sell because it's better bang for your buck, but this stuff is only $1.97 a can, so I'm gonna be thrifty and get 14 ounces of carb cleaner for $1.97. Have to get a pick, maybe pull it out. Grab a dental pick. Something not that large. There we go. Let's see if that'll work. The biggest issue with not having a good tight fitting screwdriver in here is you will strip them out. And if you don't want to replace the carburetor, I don't suggest stripping the jet out, because then you'll be out however much one of these is right now. I don't know. I haven't priced anything yet. I'm gonna go ahead and give it a smack with my hand. I'm getting crap flying everywhere. So almost go. There we go. Go ahead and give that a nice spray through and run a wire through it, make sure it's clear. Because you will not have a running machine if you have this blocked. Feels as if we have flow. Oh yeah, we're good. Go ahead and clean the threads up on this a little bit, so in the future, whoever becomes the new owner of this, because I plan on selling it, I don't plan to keep it. Set that down, spray up through. Feels like we got flow that way. Go ahead and spray through all the holes in the front. Got flow through there. Got flow through there. Blasting stuff everywhere. Overall, this thing doesn't look too hateful. Go ahead and get some of this nasty stuff off here. Take a screwdriver maybe. Yeah. Might even be able to just use a rag, wipe it off new. Yeah. Go ahead and set that jet back in here. Get it tightened down so I can move on to the next phase of this process, which will be cleaning off that float, checking the needle out, getting this thing set back in here, and then work my way to cleaning the bowl, because it's got a massive amount of nastiness to it. With this jet, you don't want to crank it down super tight. Just make sure it's snug up against. There we go. Set that down in there. Needle looks good. Spray this gunk off the top of here. All the nastiness. Some of you probably are cringing at the fact that I'm not wearing gloves, but it's my choice. If you want to wear gloves, be safe, wear gloves. That's fine. I'm not against it. It's just not my preference. With gloves on, I feel very, very incapable of doing my job properly, so I tend not to wear them. There we go. That's back in there. Go ahead and work on this bowl. Oh yeah. Came off really nice. Take a small screwdriver and busting this free at the bottom to make it a little easier to clean out. And lightly scrape around this the whole thing to make it easier for the brake cleaner to get up underneath of it. I'll probably scrape this off of here so it has a good seal. This is what happens when you leave ethanol fuel sit for months and months at a time. Well, in this case, probably years by the looks of it. But besides the point. You don't want to leave that stuff sit in your fuel tank and your carburetor and none of it. If you're going to use ethanol fuel, run it empty. So use ethanol shield, something along those lines. because if not, you are going to end up with a mess. Inside of there is just fantastic. It's disgusting. It's going to just cause problems after problems after problems. Something like this would be much simpler with an ultrasonic cleaner, but again, we don't have one, so we're going to do it the manual way. Take this brush, maybe see if it cleans it up. Yeah. Scrape a little bit more with the screwdriver here. Pick up the right tool. Once again, if you're just now watching, the sound is my tarp door being slung around by the wind. This video is going to be a little long, so if you guys get bored, I'm sorry. I'm just trying to get this thoroughly cleaned because I don't want to have to do this more than once. I don't want to sell a bad product to a customer. Let me try some of this transmission fluid vinegar solution I made. Kind of like acetone and transmission fluid. See if it helps get some of this corrosion off here. Okay, so we're back after letting this soak for a little bit, and I'm going to take a rag to it and see what it does for us. And put the drain plug bolt in there for a minute and seeing how it was going to clean up a little bit. Didn't seem to do much, but it's okay. Really got most of the stuff out of the inside. I'm pretty happy with that. So again, I'm not trying to get it perfect, but I do want it to be halfway decent. And that stuff in there is just hard stuck on residue. The outside I'm not stressed about too bad. Wipe it down, but I'm not gonna scrub it because, like I said, I'm not keeping this and it's not a customer's. I'm just selling it. So I'm gonna check and make sure this float works and everything. Everything works there. Make sure I put this back together right. Everything seems to function as it should. Go ahead and put this nut back in here. Tighten it up. Once I get over it now, I've got an inch right here I can tighten it up with. Once again, not crazy tight, just snug. Go ahead and put this back on. I'll have to cut you guys off for a second and then we'll be right back. Alright, we're back over at the snowblower. Go ahead and slide everything back on. I did find the E-clip for the choke lever. Get this in here before I get too crazy far ahead of myself. Put the spring back in the little hole. Slide that one back all the way up against. Make sure everything's out of the way. So it sits up against there tight. And then put our spacer back on here. And then we'll get our other stuff back over here so we can start putting this thing back together. First thing, I'm going to slide the cover back on here. Maybe. Okay. Hung up on something. I'm not sure what. Not all the way back on the, up against the intake. There we go. Make sure you get your choke lever in there. Let's just pop this back in here. Back this up. Okay. Of course, the bushing that sits in there popped out. Okay, now we're all the way against there. Take our 10mm nuts. Our fuel shut off. Put back on here. And then the bolt that goes down through the top, get that in next. Get this nut out of here. And then I think after I get that bolt in the top, I'm going to move on to tightening or putting the choke cable back on so that it's ready to go. Of course, after I get all these fuel lines hooked back up. That one back on there. in here. There's that. And I believe this one goes down in here. Yep. That. Go ahead and get this put back. And the little E-clip, wherever it decided to go to inside the magnetic tray. Do that. This is probably going to be fun, I imagine. Most of my time with these E-clips is just fantastic. I love E-clips. Get it started on there. And push it with these pliers, hopefully, if I'm lucky. There we go. That went well. Okay. Now we'll put our fuel line back on here. Or our fuel tank. And go ahead and feed the cable back through. Go ahead and take that plastic nut back off, slide it out, feed the cable back through the cover, and we'll put that back there. And grab a hold of your other end, slide the nut over the cable. Get that snugged up. That. Pull that back through here. Don't forget you have your little bracket that your cable sits in. Don't forget to put that back in there. Swing this barrel. It holds the choke lever, or the choke cable. Slide it around. Let your choke cable fed through it. After you get a screwdriver, tighten that up. Tighten that cable up. That's not what I wanted. Get my 8mm for that. So left it over here. Just didn't see it. Make sure you get it down in there all the way so it's not kinked. That tightened up. I am not putting hose clamps back on these fuel lines right now. For one, the ones that were on it from the factory were not doing anything but for show, in my opinion. And got everything hooked back up there. Get this kill wire stuffed back in its little clip. I have not checked for spark yet. I'm not going to do that yet. I'm going to do that once we get the oil drained and all that back to where it belongs. Because as of now, it is not going to get started yet. I'm going to wait until I change the oil. I'll put the bolts back in this top cover so it doesn't move all over the place. Now we're back. I'm going to pull this drain plug out. Might end up just using a socket instead of that. Looks like it's a 10mm too, so I'll just use the impact to pull it off. No big deal. Go ahead and pull this out. Let that oil drain. That stuff is nasty looking. Really nasty. Yep, it has definitely got gas in it. Make sure that before you guys start any of these machines, check to smell the oil. If it's been sitting for a while and that needle got stuck open, check to see if the gas smells like, or the oil smells like gas. Just in case you run it like that for too long and you got a connecting rod scattered inside the bottom end of your motor, and then it's basically useless at that point. I've had it happen many a times. People telling me, oh yeah, the machine ran not too long. And then not too long ago, I go to pull the motor apart after they said that it wouldn't start. And the bottom end is just full of chunks of connecting rod. Got a little nastiness falling out of here. I don't know if it's just chunks of... it's a little metallic-y. Not too hateful. I'll put some fresh oil in it here after it gets drained out the rest of the way. I'll run it for a little bit with that fresh oil, and then I'll probably change it again, just to be safe. I really don't want to do any more damage than what it's already done to this. It is a nice snowblower. I'm going to clean it up and paint it, get some of the rust off of it, make it look decent. That's pretty well drained. I'm not going to sit there and watch it drip until it's completely done, so that would be pointless. We'll get the rest of it out when we change it again. Just wipe that leftover oil off here. And I'm not going to impact it tight. I'm going to run it in just real easy. It's aluminum. One little snap of it should be good. Alright guys, I'm going to go ahead and fill this thing with oil and then go ahead and try and get it started. Alright, so I had a little mishap with the choke cable. I'm going to have to get a new one, but starts first pull. Put some fresh 5W30 in it, and I'm going to run it for a little while off screen, but she's good to go. Thanks guys for watching, and this is how to clean a carburetor on a HS621 Honda 4-stroke snowblower. Thanks.